In 2010, Samsung announced their first smartphone, the Galaxy S. 10 years later, we have the Galaxy S20. Let's see how far we've come and how these two compare. Pretty much the only thing they have in common in terms of design is their rectangular shape with a screen on the front, a camera on the back, and buttons on the side. Apart from that, the hardware has changed drastically. The S20 is obviously much larger, but what you may not know is back in the day, Galaxy S was considered to be very big. At the time, it was much larger than the iPhone. It is completely made out of plastic with this weird bump on the back, which houses the antennas. By the way, the whole back comes off, which lets you access the SIM card, the microSD card slot, and even lets you swap out the battery, which is awesome. This obviously means though that there's no water resistance whatsoever. Galaxy S20 on the other hand is made from glass and aluminium, which looks and feels very high-end, much more premium than the original Samsung Galaxy. The S1 however is surprisingly solid. While the materials are definitely inferior, in terms of build quality, there isn't as big of a gap as you might think. They both have a curved back, which makes them very ergonomic. Though being a lot smaller, Galaxy S is much more usable with one hand. Due to their material choices, the new model is also a lot less durable. These Galaxy S are about 10 years old and are in great conditions. They've both been dropped many times, and there are only a few scratches on the back and some paint coming off on the frame. If I were to drop my Galaxy S20, I'm not so confident that it would survive that with only a few scratches. Now it does have an IP68 rating, which means you don't have to worry about it getting wet, which is nice. Sadly, in return you can't swap out the battery anymore, but you do still have a microSD card slot. The camera on the S1 sits flush with the body, while the multi-camera setup on the S20 sticks out, but more about the cameras later. Galaxy S20 has a USB-C port on the bottom, Galaxy S has a micro USB one on the top, and next to it a headphone jack, which the new S20 doesn't have. They both still have a power button and a volume rocker on the side. They are however much more clicky on the S20. Moving on to the front, and here you immediately see the biggest difference. If you hold these displays next to each other, it actually looks quite ridiculous. Galaxy S was the first smartphone with an OLED panel. It's 5 inches big, covered in Gorilla Glass, with an unconventional 5:3 aspect ratio and a 480p resolution, which equates to a pixel density of 233 ppi. The bezels are very big, and its screen-to-body ratio is 58%. I'll be honest, it's surprisingly not that bad actually. Colors are decent, and blacks are perfect being an AMOLED. It doesn't get super bright, but it's totally usable. It's nothing compared to the screen found on the Galaxy S20 though. It has a slightly curved and 6.2-inch Quad HD AMOLED panel with rounded corners, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a PPI of 563. It's covered in Gorilla Glass 6, has HDR10+, and a whopping screen-to-body ratio of 89.5%. It pretty much has no bezels, just a small cutout for the selfie camera. It's basically the best smartphone display out there. Media consumption is amazing, especially with the great sounding stereo speakers. Galaxy S has its speaker on the back, which sounds very poor and is easily blocked. But back to the display, probably its best feature is that 120Hz refresh rate, which makes everything incredibly smooth. It's actually quite interesting. We've always had 60Hz displays on our smartphones. The Galaxy S did so as well. Only last year, manufacturers started to include 90 as well as 120Hz panels on their smartphones. Now that we've had a look at the externals, let's address the internals. Galaxy S20 is packing either a Snapdragon 865 or an Exynos 990. Both are 7nm octa-core chips. It comes with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigabytes of built-in expandable UFS 3.0 storage. There's also a 5G variant available. The original Galaxy S is rocking a single-core 1 GHz chip with 512 megabytes of RAM and 8 or 16 gigabytes of internal storage, also expandable. It has 3G capabilities. In short, obviously the S20 performs much better. It never really crashes or slows down even. The same can't be said for the Galaxy S. I do have one running a custom ROM, which does perform a lot worse than the one with the stock software. In fact, let's talk about the software. Galaxy S20 is running the latest version of One UI 2.1, which is based on Android 10. Galaxy S latest software, on the other hand, is TouchWiz 3, running on top of Android 2.3.6 Gingerbread. Sadly, this means there's pretty much no support for any of the apps I use regularly. YouTube and even the App Store don't work anymore. It's not very refined and doesn't have many features, but the core Android components are still there. An app launcher, a notification shade with quick settings, it even supports widgets and has a scrollable wallpaper. Fun fact, when the first iPhone launched, it did not support a wallpaper at all. For navigation, you have a home button flanked by two capacitive ones. The S20 on the other hand uses gesture navigation. You can install a custom ROM even up to Android 7. I have Android Marshmallow running on my model. It enables me to install pretty much all of my apps. It's actually quite impressive that I can install a fairly new version of Android on this 10-year-old device with it working just fine. By the way, Galaxy S20 has Face Unlock as well as an in-display fingerprint scanner, which both work quite well. Galaxy S, to my big surprise, also supports Face Unlock, the security of which is questionable, but it does work. In terms of battery life, Galaxy S20 lasts you a whole day and then some. I can't really tell you how long the S1 lasts though, because I did not use it as my daily device. I can tell you though that the one running the custom ROM definitely does not last as long as the one with the stock software. In terms of charging, the new S20 supports fast charging, fast wireless charging, and even reverse wireless charging. Galaxy S supports none of that, just regular slow charging. However, if you do run out, you can just pop in a fresh battery, which is awesome. Lastly, let's move on to the camera. The brand new S20 is rocking a triple camera setup featuring a 12 megapixel wide angle, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 64 megapixel total lens with 3x hybrid optical zoom. The original Galaxy is rocking a single 5 megapixel shooter with autofocus, but no flash. And the results speak for themselves. Here, have a look. I don't really have too much to add to that. Obviously, the S20's images look miles better, but in some cases the S1 actually surprised me, and the images it took weren't as bad as you might think. Colors usually look fine, but the images are just not very sharp. In terms of video, Galaxy S shoots 720p at 30 fps. Here's what that looks like. And here we have the same shot in full 8K glory captured by the S20. By the way, the original Samsung Galaxy cost you $600 back when it launched. You can now pick up a used one for around $15. The S20's price has increased, which will run you around $900 to $1,000. These two smartphones are 10 years apart and the technological advancement is incredible. While the basic hardware and software are similar, Galaxy S20 is better in every conceivable way. The most impressive improvement, at least in my eyes, were made in the camera departments, which are so good and convenient now, they've pretty much replaced point-and-shoot cameras. Additionally, the development in display technology, massive software improvements, more premium, waterproof hardware made from high-end materials are all very welcome upgrades. Nevertheless, not everything is better. Some sacrifices had to be made, like getting rid of the headphone jack as well as the removable batteries. While there have been massive improvements made in battery as well as charging technologies, the actual battery life isn't that much better than it used to be 10 years ago. While that is somewhat understandable given the much bigger and higher resolution displays and more power-hungry chips, this is a little unfortunate. The original Samsung Galaxy S paved the way for the smartphones we have today, and I'm very happy for that. 10 years after its release, it still works surprisingly well, and it's really not as bad as you might think. I can't wait to see what kind of smartphones we will have in the future. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button, leave a comment down below if you have any questions or feedback. Make sure you're subscribed and you've hit the notification bell to not miss any of my upcoming S20 videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.